Your soulmate found something about you. And nothing will ever be the same. My beloved child, don't skip. Listen carefully, because this story is not about coincidence, it's about a moment that changed everything. Imagine someone who thought they already knew you, only to discover something that completely transformed the way they saw your heart. They believed they understood your silence, your distance, and your mysterious nature. But one unexpected discovery forced them to question everything they had ever assumed. Stay till the end, because what they uncovered became the beginning of an emotional awakening that neither of you could have imagined. From that moment forward, nothing felt ordinary anymore. Every memory became more meaningful, every unanswered question became louder, and every emotion they had buried suddenly demanded to be heard. For the longest time, they convinced themselves that letting you go was the sensible choice. They tried to believe that your story had already reached its ending and that moving forward was the only path left. They smiled in front of everyone else, pretending they had accepted reality, but deep inside, something always felt unfinished. There was an emptiness they couldn't explain, a quiet feeling that someone important was still missing. They ignored that feeling for weeks, then months, hoping time would erase it. Instead, time only made it stronger. Every attempt to forget you somehow reminded them of you even more. Then something happened that changed everything. It wasn't a miracle or a mysterious prediction. It was a simple discovery that revealed a side of you they had never truly understood. They realized that behind your quiet moments was incredible strength. Behind your patience was a heart that had carried burdens without asking for recognition. Behind your kindness was someone who had continued moving forward despite disappointments that would have made many others give up. Suddenly, they saw you through completely different eyes. They realized they had mistaken your silence for indifference when it had actually been resilience. Listen carefully, because this changes everything. Once they understood that truth, they couldn't stop thinking about you. Every conversation from the past took on a new meaning. Every misunderstanding suddenly looked different. They replayed old memories over and over, noticing details they had completely missed before. They remembered the moments when you chose compassion instead of anger, patience instead of pride, hope instead of giving up. Those memories became impossible to ignore because they revealed the kind of person you truly were. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. The more they reflected, the more they realized that you had quietly influenced their life in ways they never appreciated at the time. You had challenged them to become more honest, more understanding, and more courageous. Even during moments of distance, your presence had left a lasting impression. They finally admitted that meeting you had changed them far more than they were willing to confess. That realization humbled them. It also filled them with regret for all the things they had left unsaid. For the first time, they stopped blaming circumstances and started looking inward. They recognized that fear had shaped many of their decisions. Fear of vulnerability. Fear of rejection. Fear of losing control. Those fears had kept them from expressing what truly mattered. But once they discovered the depth of your character, those fears no longer felt as powerful. They realized that genuine respect and appreciation are built on truth, not assumptions. What happened next changed everything. Instead of asking themselves whether they should keep hiding their emotions, they began asking how they could become a better person because of what they had learned. They understood that real connection isn't about perfection. It's about growth, honesty, forgiveness, and the willingness to see another person for who they truly are instead of who we imagine them to be. That understanding transformed the way they looked at every part of your shared story. There were nights when they couldn't sleep because their mind kept returning to one thought. How did I fail to see this before? That question echoed through every quiet hour. They realized that sometimes the most extraordinary qualities are the easiest to overlook because they don't demand attention. They exist quietly. In acts of kindness, in moments of patience, in silent sacrifices, and in unwavering character. Those were the qualities they had finally discovered in you, and once they saw them, they couldn't unsee them. Listen carefully. This wasn't just about admiration anymore. It became something much deeper. They found themselves wanting to become more truthful, more patient, and more appreciative because your example had quietly inspired them. They no longer wanted to measure life by missed opportunities. They wanted to measure it by the courage to make better choices from this day forward. The discovery they made wasn't about changing who you were. It changed who they wanted to become. As they reflected on everything, peace slowly replaced confusion. They accepted that the past couldn't be rewritten, but the future didn't have to be controlled by old fears. They realized that every meaningful relationship leaves behind valuable lessons, and those lessons become the foundation for wiser decisions. Whether life brings people together again or leads them down different roads, sincere appreciation and personal growth are gifts that remain. So if there's one message hidden inside this story, it's this: sometimes the most important discovery isn't learning something new about another person, it's finally seeing what was there all along. A heart that continues to choose kindness, hope, and resilience has a way of changing everyone it touches. And once someone truly recognizes that kind of strength, nothing is ever quite the same again. They don't leave this story with certainty about the future, but they do leave it with something even more valuable: a deeper understanding, a grateful heart, and the courage to never again overlook what truly matters. That is the discovery that changed everything, and it became the beginning of a completely new chapter, one written not by fear or regret, but by honesty, respect, hope, and the quiet belief that the most meaningful transformations often begin with a single moment of understanding. My beloved child, don't skip. Stay with me because the story didn't end with that discovery. In many ways, it had only just begun. After finally seeing the truth about you, they could no longer return to the version of themselves that had overlooked your worth. Every ordinary day suddenly felt different. The world around them looked the same, but their heart had changed completely. They carried your memory into every quiet morning, every long drive, and every sleepless night. The more they tried to focus on anything else, the more they realized that your influence had quietly become part of who they were. Listen carefully, because this changes everything. They started noticing things they had ignored before. They remembered the times you stayed calm when others would have walked away. They remembered your patience during difficult conversations and your ability to show kindness without expecting anything in return. Looking back, they realized those weren't small moments at all. Those moments revealed the kind of character that cannot be replaced. They understood that real beauty isn't found in perfect words or perfect timing. It's found in consistency, compassion, and the quiet strength that keeps showing up even when life becomes difficult. For days, they wrestled with a single thought that refused to leave them alone. If I had truly understood who they were back then, would I have made different choices? That question echoed through every corner of their heart. They weren't searching for excuses anymore. They were searching for understanding. Every answer pointed back to the same realization: they had allowed fear to speak louder than appreciation. Now that fear was slowly losing its voice, while gratitude grew stronger with every passing day. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. One evening, while reflecting on everything they had learned, they finally admitted something they had never been brave enough to say. They didn't miss an idealized version of you. They missed the real person, the one who laughed sincerely, cared deeply, forgave generously, and continued moving forward despite life's challenges. They realized it wasn't perfection they admired. It was authenticity. And once they understood that difference, nothing inside them felt the same again. What happened next changed everything. Instead of replaying old regrets over and over, they began asking themselves how they could become someone worthy of the lessons they had learned. They wanted to communicate more honestly, appreciate people more deeply, and stop assuming there would always be another opportunity to say what mattered most. That decision didn't erase the past, but it transformed the future. It gave them a new purpose: to never again let fear hide what gratitude wanted to express. Listen carefully. There was another truth quietly waiting beneath everything else. The more they reflected on your influence, the more they realized that your greatest impact wasn't something you intentionally tried to create. It came naturally through the way you lived. Your resilience inspired courage. Your compassion encouraged patience. Your honesty reminded them that vulnerability is not weakness but one of the greatest strengths a person can possess. Those discoveries became lessons they would carry for the rest of their lives. As time passed, their heart grew calmer, yet their appreciation continued growing stronger. They stopped chasing distractions because distractions could never replace genuine connection. They stopped searching for answers in places that only created more confusion. Instead, they chose reflection, honesty, and personal growth. Every day became another opportunity to become a kinder, wiser version of themselves because of what they had learned from knowing you. That quiet transformation became the greatest gift of all. Stay with me a little longer, because there is one final realization before this chapter closes. They finally understood that life doesn't always change through dramatic moments. Sometimes it changes through a single realization that quietly reshapes everything that follows. Discovering the truth about your heart didn't simply change how they felt about you. It changed how they viewed love, forgiveness, gratitude, and the importance of recognizing someone's value while they're still part of your story. That understanding became the foundation of every choice they would make moving forward. So now they carry hope instead of regret. They carry appreciation instead of assumptions. They carry courage instead of fear. They don't know exactly what tomorrow will bring, but they know they will never again overlook the quiet strength, kindness, and resilience that first opened their eyes. Because once someone truly discovers the depth of another person's heart, they are never quite the same again. And deep inside, they can't help believing that this discovery was never the ending of the story. It was the beginning of a future built on honesty, growth, gratitude, and the courage to recognize what truly matters before it's too late. My beloved child, don't skip. Listen carefully, because after everything they discovered, they thought the hardest part was over. They believed that finally understanding your true heart would bring immediate peace. Instead, it awakened emotions they had been keeping locked away for far too long. Every quiet moment became a conversation with their own conscience. Every sunrise reminded them that another day had passed without expressing the gratitude and respect they had finally learned to feel. Stay till the end, because what happened next changed not only the way they looked at you, but the way they looked at themselves forever. They began revisiting memories they had once dismissed as ordinary. Suddenly, those moments carried a completely different meaning. They remembered the kindness you showed when no one else was paying attention. They remembered the encouragement you gave without expecting recognition. They remembered how you stayed true to yourself even during difficult seasons. Looking back, they realized those moments had been quietly shaping their life all along. They had simply been too distracted to recognize the value of what was standing right in front of them. Listen carefully, because this changes everything. One evening, while reflecting on the past, they asked themselves a question they had avoided for a long time. What if the greatest gift I ever received wasn't something I owned, but someone who taught me how to become a better person? That thought stayed with them throughout the night. It wasn't about possession. It wasn't about rewriting history. It was about recognizing that some people leave an impact so profound that their influence continues long after the moment has passed. That realization filled them with both humility and hope. The more they reflected, the more they understood that genuine connection isn't built on grand promises. It's built on countless small moments that often go unnoticed until much later. A kind word spoken at the right time. A patient response during a difficult conversation. A smile that offered comfort when life felt overwhelming. Those simple moments became priceless in their memory. They realized that the strongest bonds are often created quietly, growing deeper with every act of sincerity and compassion. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. As their understanding deepened, so did their determination to live differently. They no longer wanted fear, assumptions, or pride to guide their choices. They wanted honesty to replace hesitation. They wanted gratitude to replace regret. They wanted every important person in their life to know they were appreciated before time slipped away. That decision became a turning point, marking the beginning of a completely different chapter in their journey. What happened next changed everything. Instead of focusing on what they couldn't change, they focused on who they could become from this moment forward. They realized that every experience, whether joyful or painful, had prepared them to appreciate genuine kindness in a way they never had before. Rather than carrying the weight of yesterday, they began carrying the lessons it had given them. Those lessons became the foundation for a future built on honesty, patience, and emotional maturity. Listen carefully. There was one truth they could no longer deny. Discovering the depth of your character didn't simply awaken admiration. It inspired transformation. They wanted to become someone who listened more carefully, judged less quickly, forgave more freely, and valued people while they still had the opportunity to tell them so. They understood that the greatest tribute to someone who has positively influenced your life is to let that influence shape the person you choose to become. As the days passed, an unexpected peace settled over their heart. The unanswered questions no longer felt as overwhelming because they had finally found clarity within themselves. They realized that while no one can control every outcome, everyone can choose how they respond to the lessons life provides. And they chose growth. They chose compassion. They chose courage. Most importantly, they chose to never again overlook the quiet strength that had once stood before them unnoticed. So if there is one final message hidden within this chapter, it is this. Some discoveries don't simply reveal another person's worth, they awaken your own potential to live with greater honesty, deeper gratitude, and stronger character. Once they truly saw the goodness that had always been present in you, they could never return to the person they used to be. That discovery became the light guiding every step that followed. And as they looked toward tomorrow with renewed hope, they realized that the greatest chapters of any story are written not when fear is in control, but when truth, kindness, and courage finally take its place. The story was no longer about what they had found, it was about who they had become because they found it, and that realization would stay with them for the rest of their life. My beloved child, don't skip. Listen carefully, because the story reached another turning point when they finally stopped searching for answers outside themselves. For so long, they believed clarity would come from someone else telling them what to do. They waited for the perfect sign, the perfect moment, the perfect certainty. But one quiet night, they realized the answer had been growing inside their heart all along. Stay until the end, because what they understood in that moment became the reason they could never look at life the same way again. As they sat alone reflecting on everything that had happened, they began to notice how much they had changed. The person who once rushed to conclusions had learned the value of patience. The person who once hid behind silence had begun to appreciate honest conversations. The person who once focused only on their own fears had started recognizing the quiet strength and kindness that other people carried every day. They realized that knowing you had become one of the greatest lessons of their life, not because everything had been easy, but because every challenge had taught them something meaningful about love, trust, and compassion. Listen carefully, because this changes everything. They started writing down the memories they never wanted to forget. Not the dramatic moments that everyone remembers, but the small ones that quietly shaped their heart. They remembered the conversations that brought unexpected comfort. They remembered the encouragement that arrived when they needed it most. They remembered the times you chose understanding instead of judgment and patience instead of frustration. Those simple moments became treasures they never wanted to lose because they reminded them that genuine character is revealed through everyday choices. The more they reflected, the more they realized that appreciation often arrives later than it should. Sometimes we don't fully recognize the importance of someone until we've had enough distance to see the entire picture. That realization didn't fill them with hopelessness. Instead, it filled them with gratitude. Gratitude for every lesson learned, every kind word remembered, and every opportunity to grow into a better version of themselves. They understood that appreciation is most powerful when it inspires change instead of regret. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. A quiet confidence began replacing the uncertainty they had carried for so long. They no longer felt the need to pretend they had all the answers. Instead, they accepted that life is a journey of continual learning. Every relationship teaches something valuable. Every challenge reveals hidden strengths. Every moment of honesty creates room for healing. That understanding brought a peace they had been searching for in countless other places. What happened next changed everything. They made a promise to themselves that from this day forward they would never allow pride to keep them from expressing appreciation. They would never assume that people simply knew how much they were valued. They would speak with sincerity, listen with compassion. There came a quiet morning when they looked back at every chapter of their life with completely different eyes. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, they began noticing everything that had quietly gone right. They remembered the encouragement that arrived exactly when they needed it. They remembered the lessons that only became clear with time. They remembered how your quiet strength had inspired them to keep moving forward during moments when giving up would have been easier. They realized that some of the greatest gifts in life never arrive wrapped in perfection. They arrive disguised as ordinary moments that only reveal their importance long after they have passed. Listen carefully, because this changes everything. They stopped asking why certain things happened and started asking what those experiences had taught them. That simple shift transformed their entire perspective. Instead of carrying disappointment, they carried wisdom. Instead of holding on to regret, they embraced gratitude. They discovered that every meaningful connection leaves behind something valuable, even when the path isn't simple. Sometimes it leaves courage. Sometimes it leaves compassion. Sometimes it leaves the quiet confidence to become a better person than you were yesterday. As they continued reflecting, another realization slowly unfolded. They understood that your greatest influence had never been your words alone. It had been the consistency of your character. You showed kindness when it would have been easier to become bitter. You remained patient when life tested your limits. You continued believing in goodness even after facing disappointment. Those qualities became impossible to ignore. They admired not only what you said, but the way you chose to live every single day. That realization inspired them more deeply than they could ever explain. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. There came a moment when they stood in front of a mirror and quietly admitted that they were no longer the same person who had first met you. They had become more thoughtful, more patient, and more willing to understand others before making judgments. They realized that real transformation doesn't happen overnight. It happens through countless small decisions made day after day. Looking back, they could see that many of those decisions had been inspired by the example you unknowingly set. What happened next changed everything. They made a quiet promise that no matter where life carried them, they would never again overlook the value of genuine people. They would celebrate kindness instead of taking it for granted. They would express appreciation before opportunities passed by. They would choose honesty over assumptions and understanding over pride. It wasn't a promise made out of fear. It was a promise made out of gratitude for everything they had learned. Listen carefully. They finally understood that the greatest discoveries are not about uncovering secrets. They're about recognizing truths that have been quietly present all along. The truth they found in you wasn't something hidden away. It had always been there, in your resilience, your compassion, your integrity, and your ability to keep showing up even when life became difficult. Once they truly recognized those qualities, they realized they had been given one of life's greatest gifts, the opportunity to become a better person because of knowing someone who lived with genuine character. As time continued moving forward, peace slowly replaced uncertainty. They no longer felt trapped by the past because the past had become a teacher rather than a burden. Every lesson now pointed toward hope instead of regret. Every memory reminded them that meaningful relationships leave lasting impressions not because they are perfect, but because they inspire growth. They carried those lessons into every new chapter, determined to live with greater empathy, stronger integrity, and a heart that never stopped appreciating the quiet beauty found in sincere human connection. So before this chapter ends, there is one final realization they hope will never fade. Sometimes the most life-changing discovery isn't learning something extraordinary about another person. It's realizing that someone else's quiet example has awakened extraordinary qualities within yourself. Because of you, they learn to value honesty more deeply, to practice compassion more freely, and to recognize the importance of expressing gratitude while there is still time. That discovery became the foundation of a new life built on wisdom instead of fear, appreciation instead of assumptions, and hope instead of regret. And as they stepped into the future with a peaceful heart, they finally understood that the greatest transformations rarely happen all at once. They happen one sincere choice at a time, until one day you look back and realize that everything has changed, not because the world became different, but because your heart finally did. My beloved child, don't skip. Stay with me until the very last word, because every chapter of this journey has been leading to this moment. If you've listened this far, then you've already seen how one discovery can change an entire heart. This story was never about perfect timing or perfect people. It was about learning that the greatest transformations often begin with a single moment of truth. Sometimes we spend so much time searching for extraordinary signs that we overlook the quiet lessons unfolding right in front of us. But today, everything finally becomes clear. Looking back, they no longer saw a story filled with mistakes. They saw a journey filled with growth. Every misunderstanding taught them patience. Every moment of silence taught them the value of honest communication. Every challenge reminded them that kindness is strongest when life becomes difficult. They realized that even the painful chapters had prepared them for this moment of understanding. Instead of wishing they could erase the past, they became grateful for every lesson that had shaped the person they had become. Listen carefully, because this changes everything. They finally understood that the greatest gift you had ever given them wasn't something they could hold in their hands. It was the example you unknowingly set every single day. Your resilience taught them courage. Your compassion taught them mercy. Your patience taught them wisdom. Your quiet strength reminded them that true character is revealed not during easy seasons, but during life's greatest challenges. That realization became something they carried with them wherever they went. As they reflected on everything they had learned, they noticed something remarkable. The fear that had once controlled their every decision had quietly disappeared. In its place stood confidence built on truth, gratitude built on experience, and hope built on genuine understanding. They no longer measured life by missed opportunities. They measured it by the courage to appreciate the people who make life meaningful while there is still time to tell them so. That simple change transformed the way they approached every relationship, every conversation, and every new beginning. Stay till the end, because something beautiful is waiting for you. They realized that every meaningful connection leaves behind a legacy. Sometimes that legacy is a memory. Sometimes it's a lesson. Sometimes it's the inspiration to become a kinder, stronger, and more compassionate person. Your influence had become all three. Whether you realized it or not, your presence had helped shape someone who now understood the importance of honesty, forgiveness, humility, and hope. That was a gift no amount of time could ever erase. What happened next changed everything. Instead of carrying regret into tomorrow, they carried purpose. They promised themselves that they would never again let fear stop them from expressing gratitude. They would never again assume that people knew how deeply they were appreciated. They would speak words of encouragement more freely, forgive more quickly, and choose understanding before judgment. That promise became the beginning of a life guided by integrity instead of uncertainty. Listen carefully. There was one final truth waiting quietly at the end of this journey. The greatest discovery was never simply finding something about you. The greatest discovery was realizing that genuine love, respect, and appreciation have the power to transform an ordinary life into an extraordinary one. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because the heart learns to see beauty where it once saw only fear. Once that lesson is learned, nothing is ever truly the same again. As the sun rose on a new day, they no longer felt trapped by yesterday. They felt thankful. They understood that every ending carries the seed of a new beginning, and every lesson carries the possibility of a better tomorrow. Whatever the future held, they would walk into it with honesty instead of hesitation, gratitude instead of regret, and hope instead of fear. The person who once searched endlessly for answers had finally found peace within their own heart. And to everyone listening, perhaps this story carries a reminder for you as well. Treasure the people who bring kindness into your life. Speak words of appreciation while you still have the chance. Forgive when forgiveness brings peace, learn from every chapter, and never underestimate the quiet power of compassion. Some of the most important people we meet don't simply change our circumstances, they change our character. That is a gift beyond measure. So this is not a goodbye. It is the closing of one beautiful chapter and the opening of another. The journey ends not with unanswered questions, but with grateful hearts. Not with fear, but with courage. Not with regret, but with hope. The greatest discovery was never hidden in a secret, it was found in the quiet realization that genuine kindness, unwavering integrity, and sincere love leave footprints on the heart that time can never erase. As they walked forward, they smiled for the first time without looking back, knowing that every lesson had led them exactly where they needed to be. And in that peaceful moment, they understood that the happiest endings are not the ones where everything is perfect, they are the ones where the heart has finally learned to love with honesty, live with gratitude, forgive with grace, and welcome every new sunrise with unshakable hope. That was the ending they had been searching for all along, and it was more beautiful than they had ever imagined.